This week in Delaware County, let's talk about emergencies. Yeah, come on. When carnage happens, this is the man that you want to hear from. Now, we don't want carnage. We don't want problems. Jason Rogers, Delaware County Emergency Management. Hello, Jason. Good to see you again.
Hi, Steve.
Prepared is a very, very good word and a good way to be. And the serious part of this segment now is September is Preparedness Month.
In fact, it is. It is National Preparedness Month. It comes to us in the campaign for Patriot Day and after the 9/11 attacks. And it really is a message to all Americans that we need to be self-sustaining, and we need to be able to take care of our families, and that starts at home, it starts at work, and starts within our community, and that is the message for Preparedness Month. And making and taking those steps to make yourself just a little bit more prepared is our goal.
It's hard to be that way, isn't it?
It can be. It certainly can be. And it is not something that we like to think about necessarily. It's not something that we like to spend a lot of money on as a community necessarily, but it is a necessary part of our budget to be prepared. If you remember back to 2005 and the ice storm, if you were not prepared, then it became very costly, and a lot of people were without places to stay and food to eat and those types of things.
And that can happen again anytime, something like that.
It doesn't have to be an ice storm. It could absolutely be a power blackout, as we've seen. We're not as prone to earthquakes in this area, but we do have the New Madrid fault that's down in southern Indiana that we would certainly feel the effects of. There are earthquakes going on, we feel, occasionally. Tornadoes are always a issue, and we do worry about domestic terrorism. We have a nice homeland here, if you will, in east central Indiana, and we do consider ourselves to be safe in general, but there are those instances out there where people want to take advantage of that.
Sure.
And the more we are prepared ourselves, the more we are prepared with our families. Knowing your neighbors. What are your special needs of your neighbors? Do you have pets? Those types of things are all questions that you need to be asking. It doesn't necessarily, if you remember 12 years ago, if you remember where you were, you may not necessarily have been at home where your emergency kit's at. Mm-hmm. So if you were at work watching, the days of 9/11 unfold and the days after, were you at work? What's your plan at work? How are you going to get back in touch with your family?
We had a situation here at the radio station. It was several summers ago. It was one of those really hot, humid days, and the tornado risk that day was very, very high. And we literally had a funnel cloud on this side of town, and a tornado warning was issued and so on. I was literally broadcasting from a different location on the phone, helping with coverage, with another resource and so forth. It got so bad at that moment that I literally had to send the announcer that was on the air in the studio talking to me. I had to send them into the basement to be safe in this building while I continued talking and doing play-by-play practically over the phone when the studio was unattended, because that was and is our plan for when that happens. We want to certainly be on the radio when an emergency occurs, but we have to also look out for our people and staff too. And in that particular situation, we have a protocol in place that I started 20 years ago when I got here. That's exactly, and we have a basement here too in the building, which is a good place to be in that kind of a situation. But were it not for proactive thinking, you panic in situations like that, don't you, Jason? And then you start going, oh my gosh, what do I do?
It's not necessarily that everyone panics, but it's very difficult to shoot from the hip.
Okay.
And This is one of the key points that I always make when this topic comes up. You don't plan a birthday party the day it happens. You don't plan a wedding the day before it happens.
That's a bad
right?
idea.
So, right, we're talking months, sometimes years in advance for some of these events, and your life is not at stake. Mm-hmm. And so, I've always say this is my tagline, if you will. Take 5 minutes at dinner and say, hey, this is how we're going to communicate. We're going to meet at this location. This is our backup plan. Another thing that people don't necessarily know is it takes far less infrastructure to send a text message than it does a telephone call. So maybe your plan should be to text your family members, and that message will get through much more easily if the airwaves of the cellular service are jam-packed during an emergency, and they typically are.
Mm-hmm. That always happens, doesn't it? Jason Rogers is our guest. Delaware County Emergency Management Agency. The smartphone application you and your counterparts have been developing is getting close to launch.
We are very, very close to launch. We anticipate that in the next, hopefully, couple of weeks. We're ready to do some beta testing. That will include your radio station in there, as well as some other resources, National Weather Service, local, regional, and national radar, emergency push notifications, fire and police radio. There will just be, pictures, social media, the RSS feed from other media sources. I mean, it's just a very robust system. So it's another way for us to help and get information out. And we certainly will point everybody to dcema.com. To get information from that and find the app when it's out.
The preparedness videos that you recently released, are they also on that website?
They will be. They have actually not been released yet. We are just finishing those with some TCOM students at Ball State University.
Okay.
So they will be done in the next week or so and will be uploaded to the YouTube channel. You will be able to get to those. We'll certainly share that with your radio station to make sure that you can pass that information along.
All right, very good. You don't have a speaker's bureau for Jason Rogers, but you do speak to groups and clubs. You'd be happy to do that. They just have to call and make an arrangement.
Absolutely. As the schedule will allow, we try to make those appearances. We have been very fortunate this year that we have been granted a public outreach grant by the Ball Brothers Foundation, and we have put together a program called Safety is No Accident. And if you would like that program to be put on for your group, certainly call our office number. It's a whole bunch of sevens. It's 747-7719. You can call any of the emergency services non-emergency line, and they can transfer you to us. That's an hour program. We have some half-hour programs. We have age-appropriate, so everybody from retired life, where and what you may need to be prepared for, down to the school-age kids. We're doing some after-school programs in the latchkey programs in all of the school districts, and I'd like to thank the administrators for inviting us into those. So we are trying to get the preparedness message out. We are trying to get information in your hands to be better educated as to how to help yourselves in an emergency.
There are some bags of supplies, kind of backpacks, I think, that you've given to us to gift to our listeners. Inside those bags, those are items that in an emergency are not critical but important to have.
I would call those good starter kits. If you don't know how or what to put into a kit, this is a really good start.
Okay, and those things are what?
Those things, Steve, there's probably too many to list here at this time, but there are things like non-perishable food items. So the space food or the camping food, glow sticks, matches. Some of them have water containers and packets in them, so you got to watch the dates and make sure that your non-perishables don't go out of date. Gloves, but what are you going to do without power? So you got to have lights. You got to have some flashlights, extra batteries. How about a crank radio, a all hazards weather radio from the NOAA? Some leather gloves, some, just things that maybe you need in particular. What about crayons and coloring books for the kids? What about some snacks for the dogs? And those types of things that you need to have in particular for your family can be added to those kits. So
you've talked about before, too, that starting that kit can literally be just starting with something. Buy one or two things this week, and then next week or 2 weeks later, buy 2 or 3 different things, and there's a list that exists on your
our
website.
Yes, if you go to dcema.com, there are some preparedness ideas, there are some preparedness plans that you can fill in the blanks for, some templates, and as well there's some planning ideas. So you go to the grocery store this week, you check off week 1, you buy 2 or 3 items, put it in the tub, throw it in the garage, and you'll have it in those emergencies.
Excellent. Being prepared, it helps. Hopefully nothing ever happens, but in my estimation, in my experience, something always happens eventually.
It's always something. And if I could just challenge your listeners to buy a pack of Band-Aids.
Okay.
Put them in the glove box of your car.
Uh-huh.
I'll bet in the next year you'll need them.
But you're right.
It's the truth.
It's the truth.
It is the truth. So if that is the first step to preparedness, I challenge your listeners to take that step. And then maybe after that, it'll be something else. Maybe it'll be, we have a one-page with wallet cards emergency plan that we would be happy to share with your group, or your home, or the individual can come to the Emergency Operations Center and pick those up. Take 5 minutes and fill that out. Maybe that's step 2. So I challenge all of your listeners in the radio station and out there who turn to your radio station in emergency situations to take that first step.
Excellent. Jason Rogers, always a pleasure.
Thank you, Stephen.
Good to see you as we continue with This Week in Delaware County. More in a moment.